and you can see it live. Right after it happens, they can show it to you. Because the public in many instances would not think that that officer would indeed act in a certain way. And this has always been going on, but now with technology and law, we're able to see that there's a disparity of what goes on within African American communities and other people of color community in regard to using that thought of the less patience, using lethal weapons that does not fit the crime. So in essence, I'm saying that maybe some thought has to go into the training where officers will rethink their toolbox and say, when I get a call and I go out, am I already going in that community thinking that I need to pull my weapon if I see anyone? I might have a prejudice that is embedded in my head that I know this is going to end up where I'm going to have to shoot someone. Or can I go in and kind of assess the issue and the problem and think, well, I have to use some other technique to take this person down. For instance, many instances, people might be selling cigarettes and that person could have been at a distance where that could have been controlled. But the thought was to do something else. And so this is what we are trying to get at in thinking in terms of the embedded nature of violence in America. How can it be curtailed? Because we have a high incidence of it. We go to any other urban areas as we've moved into urban areas with high homicide rates, Chicago, DC, any other urban areas, high inner city crime rates are there. Police officers have to go in. I think we all can understand that there will be some fear on anyone's part going in, whether you're a police officer or not. You have that fear. But given that they are trained, they have to, yes.
There's such thing as survival.
Absolutely.
That I would imagine sociologically something would kick in to an individual when he understands that he's going into a situation where many times before there is a gun back there. But there might not be one this time, but he goes in thinking that there's one, and so he goes in shooting.
That's right, and that's why I tried to define the prejudice up front, because I'm suggesting that if it was another neighborhood that's disproportionately not African, they'll go in, but they don't go in thinking they need to take the gun out first. Or if they go to the car and get the person that the person's reaching for the wallet, that they're not reaching for a gun. So we have to be a little bit sensitive to all of these types of things. And I think given that violence is rampant in America and we need to try to have better training, better educating, the economic as an institution. If those inner city environments were better economically, people were gainfully employed, you'll see a decline in all of those things. However, when you don't have that infrastructure, you're going to see high crime rates. But this is a huge problem, as you mentioned earlier, about Black Lives Matters and All Lives Matters, or just violence in America. It's a huge problem. There has been a decline since the Obama administration and all of those types of circumstances, but we still have a lot of work to do. But there is that, for the audience, there is that reoccurring pattern that is a known fact statistically, that is the disproportionate amount for African Americans and other people of color when people are being stopped. And then they end up being killed one way or another. So we have to look at that as an issue. And I say that no difference than the Zika virus. There are a lot of other issues going on right now, but when that came, it was a reoccurring pattern of people getting it. So we had to then spend attention and time, effort, and monies toward that. So in the same way, there's a disproportionate amount of killings within the African American community with profiling, with excessive force, then that issue need to be dealt with, just as any other issue or concern or problem that exists.
And so we might be able to at least mitigate some of this through some of the training that we do, recognizing that no matter how much training you have, if you go into a high crime area and a place where drugs are sold and et cetera, no matter what the training might be, you are still guided by this idea of survival. And you know that people generally get killed in these kind of situations. And so your training might kick in. But in spite of the training, that whole survival thing that is a part of us all also make you what? pull
the gun out.
Yeah.
And then when you get there, that you can do a quick assessment. If you're just there because it's a domestic violence issue or someone has just broken in, and if you have to use it, then if you find it's not, then do you have to use excessive force if you don't feel that threat? Rather than in the subconscious thinking, because you have seen someone.
That's right.
This is where the prejudice or the stereotype, overgeneralization about someone you have seen. They happen to be 6'5" and they big and they don't look like a safe person, that then you then shoot them 15 times. You know, even if you shot them one time, they failed. You know, why the excessive amount of other shootings? And then one could ask, could some other method have been used to accomplish the same outcome? And I suggest that in reference to, we got a moment of the young man that went into South Carolina and killed a lot of people there, and then he was just in their toolbox. They were able to catch him, not shoot him, and bring him to justice. And he had a trial, just like everybody else has had a trial.
And had not that been the situation, they might have shot him.
They might have just shot him. Yeah, that's what we kind of seeing out there. Yeah.
Well,
so it's interesting for people to understand that difference, because it became very controversial, you know, within this political campaign about that.
And so, Dr. Sanford, during this last half minute that we have here, I want to thank you for bringing that information and showing us that there are things that we might be able to do, certainly not to eliminate gun violence and et cetera altogether, but to at least mitigate. And I think the best thing that we might be able to do in reference to gun violence is get rid of guns. But I know that that does not work. And so, but nevertheless, let me thank you, and let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you, and good morning.